In the deep, isolated expanse of Siberia, where the cold can freeze you in an instant, and the land is as unforgiving as it is remote, there lies a story of extraordinary survival and an equally perplexing disappearance. This is the tale of the Lykov family, who, for over 40 years, lived completely cut off from the rest of the world in the heart of the Siberian Taiga. But why did they choose such an extreme form of isolation? And what led to their sudden and inexplicable disappearance? The story begins in the 1930s when the Lykov family, members of the Old Believer sect, fled persecution from the Russian Orthodox Church. They believed the church had been corrupted by reforms, and as a result, they rejected any changes. Forced to leave their community, they sought refuge in the most remote part of the earth, the vast Siberian Taiga. The Taiga is a land so harsh that even the most prepared would struggle to survive. But for the Lykovs, it wasn't just a place to hide. It became their new home. With no map, no guide, and no knowledge of the area, they ventured deep into the wilderness and set up a life unlike any other. The family consisted of Father Karp, Mother Akulina, and their 4 children, Sophias, Dmitri, Natalia, and Agafia. They built their cabin by hand, using the simplest tools they had. Their survival was driven by pure resourcefulness. They hunted, fished, and grew what little they could in the Siberian soil, relying on their deep faith to guide them through the toughest of times. For decades, the family lived in near-total isolation. They saw no one, spoke to no one, and had no contact with the outside world. For over 40 years, the Lykovs remained hidden from the world. They remained completely unaware of the events unfolding in Russia and the world beyond their remote cabin. They were, in many ways, frozen in time. The world advanced. World War II came and went, and the Soviet Union underwent major political and social shifts, but the Lykovs remained untouched by these changes. In 1978, a Soviet geological expedition was flying over the region when they noticed something curious. Smoke was rising from what appeared to be a cabin deep in the wilderness. Intrigued, they decided to investigate, and what they found would surprise them. When the team arrived, they discovered the Lykov family, living in absolute isolation, completely unaware that the world had passed them by. The family's physical health was surprisingly good, given the brutal conditions they had been living in. Karp, the father, was even described as having the strength of a much younger man. Yet, despite their healthy appearance, the family had clearly been living a difficult and Spartan life. The Lykovs were shocked to learn of the changes in the world. The Soviet Union's political landscape, the rise of space exploration, and the events of World War II, which had passed them by completely. The family had no concept of modern technology, no understanding of the advancements of the world outside of their secluded life. They learned that, in their absence, history had marched on without them. Yet, despite this shock, the Lykovs had lived a remarkable life. They had maintained their traditions, their faith, and their self-reliance in an environment that would break most people within weeks. But just as mysteriously as they had been found, the Lykovs vanished. In 1981, just a few years after their discovery, the family mysteriously disappeared. When a search team returned to the cabin in 1982, they found it abandoned. No signs of struggle, no indication of where the family had gone. The cabin was left behind, still stocked with food and supplies, their belongings undisturbed. The Lykovs were gone. What happened to them? Did they simply walk off into the wilderness, never to return? Did they fall victim to an accident or perhaps illness? Some believe that the family, overwhelmed by the rapid changes in the world they had so long avoided, chose to disappear once again, retreating even further into the taiga. Others suspect that the family perished in the wilderness, unable to survive the harsh environment any longer. Despite several investigations over the years, no trace of the family was ever found. Some of the theories suggest they may have been affected by an illness, possibly something like tuberculosis, which had taken a toll on other family members in the past. Others wonder if they simply decided to leave their old home and vanish once more into the wilderness. One thing is certain: the mystery of the Lykov family's disappearance remains unsolved. Their choice to live in such extreme isolation, their sudden reappearance in 1978, and their equally mysterious disappearance just a few years later have left an indelible mark on the history of Siberia. A reminder of how, even in our modern age, some secrets are too deeply buried in the wilderness to ever be unearthed.